Welcome, everybody. This is the Planning Commission of Farmington Hills regular and public hearing tonight, July 20th, 2023. We're here at City Hall, Farmington Hills, in the council chambers. We'll take roll call. It looks like Tanji and Marissa are absent. All other 7 members of the Planning Commission are present, along with staff and consultants and our city attorney. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved. Second.
Okay, moved by John, supported by Barry. All in favor of approving the motion to approve the agenda, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Ayes have it. Agenda approved. Tonight, the meeting's in two parts. We have the public hearing portion of the agenda where these items were set for public hearing, and we'll receive public comment on those items. The second part of the agenda will be regular business items. Those items either are actions of the Planning Commission we'll take action on, or we'll actually, I think there's one item we're going to set for a public hearing for public comment at a future date. Okay, the first item under 4A is amend Plan Unit Development, PUD 5. 1993, location is 36455 and 36555 Corporate Drive. The proposal is to amend PUD to permit signage not presently permitted. This action is a recommendation to the City Council. The Planning Commission and your Planning Commission make a recommendation. It'll go to City Council at a future date for their approval. Applicant and owner is the Farmington Hills Corporate Investors, LLC. Staff, do we start with the proponent or do we start with the consultant? Proponent? Yep. Okay, please come forward if you're representing the Farmington Hills Corporate Investors, LLCs. And your name and address, please. Thank you.
Hello, good evening. My name is Chris Kajoyan with the Kajoyan Companies at 39400 Woodward Avenue in Bloomfield Hills, Michigan. I'm joined tonight by representatives from Comerica Bank as well as UCO Signs, who are all participating in this project. I was in front of you, I think, about a month ago when we deemed this a major amendment versus a minor amendment to the PUD. So I'll briefly touch on what we're doing here and why we're in front of you tonight. So as you know, Comerica is moving their Michigan Operations Center to Farmington Hills, moving into 340,000 square feet at the subject property. As a part of that, they're investing a lot of money both in the building and in the community, and part of that is updating the signage in the building. So if you drive by the property right now, you'll see we're well underway building a connector between the two buildings. So historically, this has been 2 independent buildings, same ownership entity on the same property, obviously. But they were multi-tenant buildings. So one was primarily occupied by one tenant, but historically multi-tenant buildings. So there were multiple signs existing on this property. Now that it's turning into kind of a corporate campus for Comerica Bank, it's switching from multi-tenant to single tenant. The other big change that's really causing us to come in front of you is we're going from 2 buildings, connecting them into one larger building, which, looking at the language of the PUD and the signage allotments, changes that, given that it's now one large building instead of 2 independent buildings. So what we're asking for tonight is really to approve some additional signage as well as just cleaning up the language. So we had existing wall signs on this property for years if you drove by, and we're not asking for any more signage, but because it is that one building versus 2, technically in the language, it looks like we're asking for more signage up on the property. Additionally, we're asking for a freestanding sign along the freeway that will give great visibility to Comerica so they can show off that they're here in Farmington Hills. They're going to have 2,200 employees here in Farmington Hills, but they really want to be able to help recruit and keep that as a vibrant campus, and again, show that that's where they are. So we've really looked at the sight lines from the freeway, taken a lot of time. UCO Signs has put a lot of time into this project as well. And we feel that this sign along the freeway just helps people see passing by that Comerica is anchored here in Farmington Hills. So I'm happy to dive into any of the details. Like I said, we have representatives from both the bank and UCO Signs if you have any technical questions. And with that, I'd turn it back to you for any questions.
Okay, welcome. Thank you for the presentation. Very good. Commission, do you have any questions for Chris? Yeah, Barry.
Besides the, I know there's a central sign that's going to stick up. A lot of the some of the other signs you're talking about are already on the campus there. You're just changing the names on the signs.
That is correct. So you'll see there's a number of signs that exist and have been there for some time where they may have had two positions for two names. Those are going to be changed to, Comerica's one name.
But most of the sign changes are currently existing signs that you're just changing the sign to take off the old tenant and putting your name on it.
Yes, sir. So
You're
we're
putting one
installing-
on one building, you're putting one on the other building, you're putting a central one where you're the connector,
Correct.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
Any other questions for the proponent? Okay, I'll turn it over to staff or consult for review. Any comment from staff on this proposal? Yeah, but I guess.
No, I think just the recap of the proposal and the task or the question before the Planning Commission is whether this amendment constitutes a major or a minor change, noting that either way we'll have to amend the PUD agreement, just with the difference of the major amendment is this public hearing that we're having. And that the agreement would need to be the 3 wall signs on the south facade where 1 is permitted, 291 square feet of the wall sign on the south facade where 100 square feet is permitted, and a 25 3/4 foot high sign along I-696 where 6 feet is permitted. That's the summary of the request.
Okay, very good. So this is kind of a technical change to a PUD agreement. Since it is a technical change, the Planning Commission looked at it and said, technically it is a major change, and therefore we were having a public hearing. Presentation's been made. Any other comment? Either questions from the Planning Commission to the consultant? If not, I'll open a public hearing. Okay, the public hearing is now open on this text amendment, or excuse me, this PUD change. Anybody interested in speaking on this issue can come up to the podium and make your comments relative to the change. Seeing none coming forward, I'll close the public hearing. Back to the Planning Commission. So, Tom, do you have any comments, City Attorney, on the change?
No comments. At the last meeting, you found it was a major amendment. We're here having the public hearing. I think it's just the motion in the sheet to recommend to City Council.
Okay, so we'll recommend either approve it or to deny it, but it would go to City Council, and ultimately, the City Council would, if it's, we recommend approval, they would have to then approve and change the document to accommodate the change. That's the technical aspect of it. Anyhow, okay. Back to us. Barry.
I have no objections to this. I actually think Comerica for deciding to move to Farmington Hills. Welcome to Farmington Hills. I move to recommend to the City Council that the proposed amendment to PUD 5, 1993, dated May 18, 2023, submitted by Farmington Hills Corporate Investors, LLC, be approved because the plans are consistent with the goals, objectives, and policies of the master plan, applicable provisions of the planned unit development option in section 34-3.20 of the zoning ordinance, subject to modifications of zoning ordinance requirements as indicated on the proposed plan. Further modifications of zoning ordinance requirements as follows, and I don't have any of the following conditions. I don't really see anybody have any, there's no conditions.
Other conditions, okay. Barry made the motion, John supported. Any comments on the motion? See no comments on the motion, I'll call the question. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed say nay. The ayes have it. The motion passes. The recommendation will go on to City Council, and then you'll be scheduled through the planning office when the next available date for the City Council will be. Thank you for coming in, and best of luck.
No, thank you all for your time. Greatly appreciated.
Thank you very much. Item 4B, I assume on this one, we'll hear from staff that we're the proponent on it. It is zoning text amendment 2 of 2023. This is a public hearing. It involves zoning ordinance chapter 34 of the code. The proposed amendment would amend zoning ordinance to include definition of shipping container, amend existing definitions of building and to include new subsection addressing use of off-site built enclosures as accessory buildings or uses. Again, this is a recommendation to City Council. The sections involved are 34-2.2 and 34-51.1. So we'll turn it over to staff for a little introductory comment on the proposed change, and then open it up to the public for a public hearing.
Yeah, so basically to kind of recap this one, this ordinance was first introduced a few months back, was tabled for some further information, brought that forward. Kind of explained that the thrust of this ordinance is to create a backdrop or a clock, so to speak, for, you know, the placement of these shipping container-like structures. Something where, you know, we have some ability to say it's been out there too long, it's been on a, you know, it's becoming basically a permanent fixture of the neighborhood. And this ordinance actually kind of sets that 30-day clock for residential use of these structures in connection with, you know, maybe moving or remodeling. You have a pod in your driveway, something like that, you get 30 days time. Then you can also come back in and ask for a 30-day extension as well. And that's currently, you know, an environment where we don't really have a clear regulation in that regard in the city right now. So this kind of clarifies that policy, gives us a starting and stopping point, you know, to enforce on these cases that are kind of egregious, the ones where, you know, one of these structures has been sitting there for far too long.
Okay. Any questions of staff? This came through code enforcement, or a little background as
Yeah,
as it relates?
it stems from some things we've been seeing in the realm of code enforcement, certainly, some trends we've been seeing in other communities, kind of, you know, drafted this language to kind of respond to these patterns we've been seeing, especially with respect to the residential use of industrial style shipping containers as sheds and things like that. This was kind of a direct response to that. And then kind of also looking into, you know, we get a lot of inquiries, for example, with commercial businesses and offices and things that want to keep these in the parking lots on a permanent basis, which, you know, for the visual impact of the community might not be the best thing in the long run. So, you know, we've kind of extended it to those other zoning districts to put some stipulations on that. Well, actually allowing them within the light industrial district with proper review. Right now, a lot of people in the light industrial district are just kind of throwing them out there somewhere on the lot. In this case, they would actually have to submit to us a plan, and we'd have to approve of the location and the screening, make sure it's in, you know, a rear yard, not visible to the road, those sorts of things.
Okay. So we recognize the practical aspects of having them. We're limiting them and making sure there's adequate controls in place to be
Exactly.
respectful to our neighbors. Okay, good. Questions for staff? Danielle?
So this includes, like the temporary pod containers that are used when folks are having remodeling done in their homes, correct?
Correct.
And so how do we, or you arrive at the 30-day timeline as it relates to understanding how long remodeling takes?
Well, we do have a separate provision in our ordinance that has not changed, that does allow for one of these structures to be up in connection with ongoing construction activity. So if you had an ongoing remodeling project going on that was maybe delayed for some reason, and you simply told us that, we would continue to let you use the structure in connection. It's just when, you know, that construction is over and there's no real reason to have it out there that, you know, we'd say the 30-day clock has started and now it's time for you to remove it. You don't have good cause to have it there anymore.
Understood. Thank you.
Very good. Barry?
No, I think, Eric, I think one of the problems was that some people were using these as permanent structures like
Exactly.
sheds in the back, and even though they're still pods or drop-offs off a truck, it looks like someone put a metal truck in their backyard and they're using it to store their lawnmowers in, and it's really, they start rusting out, they're not very sightly, and the neighbors complain, and if we don't have an ordinance, then there's nothing much we can do about it.
Yeah. Exactly.
Steve?
Okay, I'm ready to make a motion.
Before we do that, we'll open up the public hearing. Seeing no further questions, I'll open the public hearing. Anybody who would like to speak on this text amendment, please come forward, state your name and address, and if you're representing an association, you get a little more time. Okay, seeing none coming forward to speak on this text amendments, back to the Planning Commission for considerations. Steve?
Okay. I move to recommend to City Council that revised draft zoning text amendment 2, 2023, which proposes to amend the Farmington Hills Code of Ordinances, Chapter 34, zoning, Article 2.0, definitions, to add a definition of shipping container and revise the definition of building, and to amend Article 5.0 Site Standards, Section 34-5.1, accessory building and structures to include a new subsection 34-5.1.1. Addressing the use of off-site built enclosures as accessory buildings or uses be adopted.
Okay, thank you for the motion. Thank you for the support, John. Motion to approve the text amendment as presented. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, say nay. Ayes have it. The text amendment will be recommended on to City Council and will be scheduled for their agenda at a future date and be advertised. Okay, the next item is zoning text amendment 3 of 2023. Again, this is involving zoning ordinance chapter 34. This is to amend zoning ordinance to revise definition of motel. This is a recommendation as well to City Council, and this involves section 34-2.2. Staff, Eric.
Right, so this one kind of came through the city attorney's office as kind of a response to issues of short-term rental throughout the city, which has historically been a prohibited use in Farmington Hills and continues to be. This kind of clarifies our standards with respect to that, to say, you know, the use of a property on a short-term basis is essentially a commercial use. We're basically amending the definition of motel to, you know, where a house that, you know, rents on like a nightly or weekend basis would then kind of fall under that definition of hotel or motel in this case. And the motel use is actually only permitted in commercial districts. And there's been some case law, I think our city attorney here could speak more to in that regard, but where, you know, cities have successfully defended their position, you know, using this approach, you know, deeming the use essentially a motel and therefore commercial in nature and not permitted within a residential district.
Okay, thank you, Eric. Any questions of Eric? Tom, do you have anything to add?
As we discussed at the last meeting, this is a bit of a placeholder. We sort of know the state legislature is going to tell us what our rules can be on short-term rentals.
Okay.
Eventually, hopefully sooner rather than later. So this is kind of a placeholder. As Eric said, one of the ways the courts have said we can regulate those is through the definition of a motel being broad enough. So that's what's proposed for your recommendation to council.
Okay, so get us everybody on the same page. Very good. Okay. Any questions for the attorney or staff? Seeing none, we'll open the public hearing. I'll open the public hearing now on the zoning text amendment regarding the motel definition. Anybody interested in speaking on this issue, please come forward. Seeing none, public hearing is closed. Back to the Planning Commission for a motion. Kristen.
I move to recommend to City Council that the draft zoning text amendment 3, 2023, which proposes to amend the Farmington Hills Code of Ordinances, Chapter 34, zoning, Article 2.0, Section 2.2, definitions, to revise the definition of motel as provided in the draft amendment be adopted.
Okay, motion by Kristen, supported by John, to approve the zoning text amendment. All in favor of the amendment, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, say nay. The ayes have it. This will also be recommended on to the City Council. Okay, now we're back to our regular meeting business. I'm going to take liberty as the chair, ask a question. How many people in the audience are here for item 5A? You can raise your hand. Okay, thank you. That's what I thought. So tonight, so the way it works, tonight, what's requested of the Planning Commission, the proponent has made a request for a development for which the city is considering. Part of the process is is that we have to hold a public hearing. It's part of the due process of their application. We're going to have to hold a public hearing on it. So tonight, what's requested of the Planning Commission, not a whole lot of discussion on the project, and certainly it's open and transparent. We'll talk about what the project involves. We'll hear from the proponent. But tonight is not the public hearing. It's just simply they'll probably do a quick summary of what's proposed. We'll schedule it for a public hearing, and then at that time, we're going to hear more in-depth detail of the project. We're going to get feedback from our residents, what their reaction is, and then the Planning Commission will face with a decision in terms of a recommendation to City Council. So I wanted to mention that tonight. So tonight is not the public hearing. And certainly we're glad to see you here tonight to hear what's going on in your neighborhood. If you do want to speak on this item, at the very end of the meeting, there's a section called public comment. You can come up at that time. But my advice to you is we'll keep you informed of when this public hearing is set. Come to the public hearing, you'll come back and see us, and we'll have a formal public hearing. But tonight is kind of the request to set it for a public hearing. So I just, in terms of your time, and I wanted to let you know how the process worked so that you can decide what you want to do. There'll be ample opportunity to give public comment at the public hearing, but tonight is just kind of formality. I'll make an exception. I'll make one exception to the group tonight. Please come up to the podium, ask your question quickly, and then I want to get back to regular order, okay? And give your name. Thanks for coming in. Saw you earlier at our study session.
So get a coin because I was at the study session. My name is Dave McDonald. I live at 29444 Minglewood Lane.
Okay, just a question. No, I don't want a commentary on the proposal, okay?
How will we be notified of the public hearing?
Good question. Excellent question. Staff?
Yeah, it'll be published in the newspaper. Every property within 300 feet of this project will be mailed a letter, in fact. And actually, you can count on this public hearing being scheduled for August 17th at 7:30 here in this chamber, provided the commission votes tonight to set it for a public hearing. That will be the evening. We have ample time to meet the legal noticing requirements, and that'll be the date and time.
Okay.
In this place.
Somebody wants me to make another exception.
300 feet is like
Yeah.
It's like a football field.
Yeah. So spread this.
That's what the state statute tells us to do. So we
Yeah.
have to follow the state law in that regard.
But feel free, Eric, see Eric at the end of the meeting, get his phone number, and feel free to stay in touch with staff. Okay. So thank you very much. Thanks for allowing me to make those comments. So I wanted to let you know kind of how that works. So the next item is Plan Unit Development PUD 1 2023. The location is 29915, 29905, and 29845, 13 Mile Road. Proposal is construction of multiple family housing in an RA1, one family residential zoning district. The only action for tonight is for us to set it for public hearing, which is part of the due process of this application. Applicant is Martin Manna, and this is and the owner is the Chaldean Community Foundation. We're starting with staff on this one? Jill?
We can. Well, Eric's pulling that up. I would be glad to just chime in on a little bit. One thing I think might be helpful, since we have so many people here, is to explain a little bit about the plan unit development and what it is and what it's not.
Excellent.
So plan unit development is a tool that the city is allowed to use with a developer to allow for a project to be built in a way that that allows modification of the zoning ordinance requirements. So the zoning ordinance requirements apply to all the properties, and they talk about how tall buildings can be, how far they have to be from the lot lines, a number of things. The city may have the opportunity to enter into a contract or a development agreement with a property owner if they find that a project that comes before them really couldn't be built using those standards that we have in the zoning ordinance. And so this tool lets the Planning Commission, and it will go to City Council, offer some flexibility in the application of those rules in exchange for something else that the city is getting in return. So some sort of a public benefit. So there's a lengthy process, and as the chair alluded to, this is one step of many. So the applicant came to the Planning Commission in June to present this idea. The Planning Commission granted what is called a preliminary PUD approval. All that does is lets the project move on to the next step. The next step is today, where the applicant is asking the Planning Commission to set a public hearing. So you're all here and you know that there will be a public hearing, assuming the Planning Commission does that. And then at the next meeting, there will be a public hearing. At that public hearing, and I think this is where the chair was going with, you could give comments tonight, but if you do them at the public hearing, it'll be easier for us to, through that, we hear the questions that you ask. It's not a dialogue of back and forth. It's you come up to the podium, you ask your questions, you sit down, and at the end, we'll go through those list of questions, and then the applicant will have the opportunity to respond. They may have some additional material that they want to share prior to that public hearing. That'll be available as well on the city's website and the application packets. So that may be another opportunity to provide some feedback. You can certainly do that this evening as well. So that's part of the process. After the public hearing then, the Planning Commission will make a recommendation to City Council, and then this goes to City Council where they will make a final action on this. And if the City Council agrees to it, then it goes in and the city attorney works with the applicant and they prepare a written contract. And in that contract, it spells out the ways in which this project is varying from the zoning ordinance and the things that the applicant is then required to do, because they have to do things in exchange for this flexibility. So that is the rough overview of what that process looks like. I think in terms of the presentation itself, that most of the materials have been submitted by the applicant. We had a note in our letter of July 11th that we hadn't received a schematic landscape plan that was emailed to us last Friday. So their application is fairly complete, and we'll have more information for you at your public hearing next month.
Okay, thank you, Jill. I'd like to hear from the proponent at this point. Come forward, give a brief summary, and then we'll come back to the Planning Commission.
Good evening, members of the commission. I'm Mark Abernatha with Alexander Bogarts, the architects for the project. Good evening. I also have the rest of the team from Community, Chaldean Community Foundation, as well as our firm and engineering firm. We've been working on the project for quite a while now. We're extremely excited about the project. We think it'll be a wonderful addition to the community. The list that's in front of you up on the screen right now are all of the various public benefits that are going to be part of the project. I'm going to pull up the site plan.
Make sure you're talking right into the mic so everyone can hear you.
Okay, thank you. So this is a site plan for the project, and when we laid out the project and designed the buildings for the project, one of the key concerns are minimizing the disturbance to the site, looking at the site from the standpoint of compatibility to not only our site, but what's around it, to the west, to the east, and to the south, respecting our neighbors, minimizing disturbance to the site, maximizing, retaining existing vegetation and trees that are on the site. You come into the project here, we've aligned our project entrance with a curb cut for the single family across the street, and then have a complete loop around our park area here. We have 5 buildings on the site, each building having 20 units. The buildings are a mix of 2-story and 3-story center. 50% of the building, the ends are 2-story and the center is 3-story. We set the buildings up this way so that we maximize the trees that are going to remain around the perimeter of the property. We wanted to have good access in terms of parking for each one of these buildings. One of the things that came up in our meeting with the fire marshal was emergency access and having 2 accesses into the site. The city engineer would like to minimize the number of curb cuts, and so our main curb cut is this curb cut, but we've also provided another emergency access here. The other thing that we did was look at the position of the buildings relative to our neighbors. This building has been turned on end so that the 2-story end of it is facing the neighbors, and it has a 50-foot setback. All of these buildings have a minimum of 50-foot setback off the property line, which is a substantial setback. This building, which is turned fully facing the property line, we increased that setback to some 65 feet. So from our neighbors here to this end of the building, it's not only a 2-story building, but it's about 125 feet between the house and the end of the building. This building, because we've expanded that 65-foot setback, is roughly 140 feet. This building is roughly 245 feet. All of these trees that are here and along these property line, we're proposing to retain. So between these trees and the trees that are on the adjacent property lines, there's a tremendous transition or buffer to our adjacent neighbors. In terms of wildlife, there's been discussion about wildlife displacement. The natural features that are on the site and these wildlife corridors will remain, which would allow wildlife to transition from those areas to other woodlots. This is a rendering of I was showing you the park, which is this area here. These are our buildings. You can see what I was talking about in terms of the 2-story ends and the 3-story center. These are the ends that I was talking about that would be adjacent to the single-family residential. These 2.5-story buildings, we did this for a number of reasons. One, it minimizes the building footprint on the site. We only have roughly 13.6% coverage. That's very minimal lot coverage. It reduces the impervious surface area on the site and allows us to save more trees and vegetation. The other thing that it does is it creates a tremendous amount of interest for the architecture by having low roof lines and high roof lines and varying the architectural detail. It adds for a much more interesting building. So there's a lot of diversity in the architecture and a lot of natural features that have been saved. One other thing that came up is the building height. The city allows 30 feet of building height for this type of multifamily building. Our buildings are 30 feet, 5.5 inches. As part of the PUD that Jill mentioned, along with the public benefits, which are going to be tremendous to the community, there's modifications that are allowed. We're asking for a 5.5-inch modification on the building height. And I think with the architecture and the way that it's designed and the reason we did it, in terms of the site and our neighbors and relating and being compatible with what's going on, we think that's a very reasonable modification to ask for. The other thing was traffic. We have a traffic consultant that is currently working on the study that'll be prepared for the August hearing. Preliminary input from him at this point in time is that there'll be very minimal difference in terms of the traffic that is currently trafficking 13 Mile versus when this project is brought into play. So just to close, you have a site right now that's blighted. You have vacant buildings that have vermin in them. The trees are in disarray because there's no one taking care of them. You're going to bring a project in like this, which is, it's a specific and unique project, and the reason why we decided to go with a PUD is because of that. This project is geared towards affordable, attainable workforce housing. There's a tremendous shortage of this type of housing, not only here in Farmington Hills, but throughout the state of Michigan. The governor in the state of Michigan has set forth a program to move forward with this type of housing, not only here in Farmington Hills, but across the state. So allowing this project to move forward would meet a tremendous demand. There's a current huge backlog of people that need this type of housing. So it'll fulfill what the state is trying to do and what is needed here in Farmington Hills. I'd be happy to answer any other questions you have, as would our team.
Okay, thank you for your presentation. Commission, any questions from proponent? Danielle?
Good evening.
Good evening.
You started to mention the data around housing shortage. Do you have any specific numbers on the housing shortage here, specifically in Farmington Hills, as it relates to housing, affordable housing?
I'm going to turn that over to Tom.
Yes, sir.
Tom Haji, Chaldean Community Foundation Director. Yeah, currently in Farmington Hills, there's roughly 300 to 400 affordable housing units that were built in the early 90s. And they're roughly around 8 Mile Road and those parts. But since that time, there hasn't been any new developments of affordable housing.
Do you have numbers on the need? I understand the numbers of the dwellings that exist, but the need from residents.
Yeah, we already have a need, the Chaldean Community Foundation, we already have a wait list of people that will fill majority of this project, so.
Thank you.
I did want to mention one other thing. This project, even though it's sponsored by CCF, is not specific to CCF. This is for anyone that is in need of housing.
Thank you.
John?
Are there going to be basements in these buildings?
No, these are slab on grade.
Okay.
And we did have a meeting with the fire marshal and the engineer, and as part of my presentation at the public hearing, I'll go into all those discussions, but we believe it was a real productive meeting, and we think with the suggestions we're making that we're going to be able to accommodate what they're looking for. We may not be able to come 100% in agreement with them, but we think it's going to be a great solve and a great project.
Any other questions from the proponent? Yes, Barry?
Have you had any discussions with the neighbors? Because they seem to be very interested.
Yeah, it's interesting you should say that. We talked at our last meeting, and I think it was you that made a point of make sure you talk to them. Long before that, we had reached out to them, and since reaching out to them, they've decided that they didn't want to meet with us, so we referred them to the city's website, and pardon me? Sure.
Yes, again, Tom Haji. We made contact with the treasurer of Holly Hills Homeowners Association, Ken Snodgrass. I apologize if I'm bastarding your name. I was in communication with him several times. We urged him that we want to just be good neighbors and present to their homeowners association. He said, okay, let me knock on some doors. They knocked on, I don't know how many people they talked to. This was over the course of a 3-week period. I was expecting to have an opportunity to sit with them in this type of environment to present to them. And Ken said that, they declined to meet with us, and they've submitted their position.
Let me say this so we don't get into a back and forth. So there's been an attempt to make contact.
Of course.
And I don't want to describe how that, one way or another, how that has been, but there's been obviously a contact made, so we have folks here tonight.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I've left a message. Yeah.
We appreciate that because we always want people to be well informed of what's going on so we can talk about, especially with regard to the PUD. The PUD has to show a public benefit. As Jill described, if there's a public benefit and the city decides it's a good thing, an agreement is drafted and it's a public benefit for the whole public in terms of how the city council, the planning commission view it. So we need to have an open dialogue, and we also have to have everybody informed about the process and what we're doing. So it's important. I'm glad to see everybody here tonight. So I don't want to try to describe how discussions have or haven't been going. Let's just say for now, people have been notified, they're here. We're in a PUD process, which talks about a developer coming in and saying, hey, I'm not trying to avoid the zoning from residential to multiple family. I've got a project here that I think there's a greater public benefit, and I want to try to describe that to the community, and in the process, work with the neighbors to see if this makes sense. And obviously, everybody will have their voice at the public hearing, not only at the planning commission level. If it goes to city council, you'll have a voice there as well. So my sense has been, it's always better to have a constructive discussion about what the facts are, and let's do it like that. If we do that, I think we're all better served. So contact has been made. I'm sure there'll probably, after this meeting tonight, there'll probably be more discussions, and it always happens like that. It's a process, and we'll find out where it goes. So very good question, and thank you for answering that question. Okay. So tonight, I'm going to ask the commission now whether there's a motion to set it for public hearing. And we're being told by staff the next public hearing of the Planning Commission will be August 17th, next month, 2023. So that's the action before us tonight. Not taking any public comment. You certainly have the right to wait to the end of this meeting tonight if you want to and comment on it, but you'll have that opportunity on August 17th to come back specifically for that proposal, discuss it. So I don't want to waste your time, but I want you to totally know what we're doing, what your options are, what your options are. So with that, I've made 2 exceptions. Should I make a 3rd exception? Only if you promise it's going to be just a quick question. Just a quick question. Go ahead.
I just want to know, you said we'll have time to comment. Will I have time to ask questions?
Yes, you'll be out, when you get out with the public hearing, you can make commentary, you can ask specific questions, you can talk about drainage, trees, traffic, or you can say whatever.
I think he meant tonight.
Huh?
I think he meant tonight.
Tonight, are you referring to tonight? If you wait till, yeah, you could wait for public comment at the end of the meeting and make it. I'm just saying, for everybody's time, I don't know if you want to do this again, because we're going to be more attuned to what's going on once we have all the information, all the final reports at the public hearing. You can make a commentary now, but it may not be relevant a month from now, for my benefit. So. Exactly. And that's why we encourage the proponent and the residents get together and have dialogue, discuss what's going on. So you can come back fully informed and everybody can present to the city. The constructive way we think it would happen. Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chair, could I just clarify that the gentleman who asked if you could ask questions tonight, you may ask questions tonight, but they won't be answered tonight if we wait until so that's my.
I was just going to
So
say.
I just wanted to make sure that you understand that that's the way the structure of
It's public
this-
comment.
Yeah, thank you, Jill. Thank you. I didn't get the nuance. Yeah.
I just wanted to say that we still would like to meet with
Yeah.
him before the public hearing. All they have to do is get a hold of Tom.
Right.
And we have the full presentation. The city has said we could have the meeting here. Anyone that wants to come can come, and we'll go through the entire project and
Please do.
answer any questions you have.
Thank you. Thank you for the invitation. We're going to hold you to it, okay, when we see you next month. So back to the Planning Commission. Any comments, or do we have a motion? Joe?
I move that the proposed PUD is this one, is that right?
1/2023?
Yep. Submitted by Martin Manna, dated June 19th, 2023, be set for public hearing for the Planning Commission at the next available regular meeting agenda, which I understand is the 17th of August, 2023.
Thank you, Joe. Thank you, John, for the support. Any comments on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor of the motion, say aye. Aye. Say opposed, nay. Ayes have it. Okay, the public hearing has been set for this item for August 17th, 2023, here. If there's any change, it's up to staff, we've got to notify folks. Right? And in the meantime, I would encourage both sides to get together, have a dialogue, so whatever side you ultimately take, we're informed and you're presenting it to us, and we have a good public hearing. Thank you very much for coming in tonight, everybody. Next item. And you can stay or you can go home if you want.
They could go talk to them in the hallway, too.
Or go talk in the hallway. Thank you.
Every single.
As long as you're here, as long as they're here.
Every single one of them. It's like a person-specific comment on this one. So please come out of that.
Irrational.
I don't think so. I saved you a night.
You talk and that's it.
Joe, can you, I can't read that one. No huge. One sign says no huge something.
Development.
Development?
And you get to see people one day, twice during the meeting, exactly.
I knew.
Well, this one is quite a bit more straightforward.
Okay, with folks going out in the hall to talk, we'll continue with business here. Thanks for coming in, and we'll see you next month.
But you gotta set it for a public hearing.
Well, this time, but
You're getting
Not good.
good job, I said.
You got much more empty in here.
Oh, the engineers here, good.
Okay, the next item is lot split 1 of 2023. It's a final. The location is 30749 Grand River Avenue. Proposal is split one parcel into two parcels in a B3 general business zoning district. Action requested is final lot split approval. Applicant is Ulrich J. Arnold, trustee, Vantage Systems, Inc., Vantage Systems, Inc., owner.
Minor things to do with engineering.
Is this staff, or we go to the proponent?
Let's start on the staff side.
Joe?
The proposal in front of you is for a lot split for the property at, oops, just turned the page too fast, 30749 Grand River. You may be familiar with the site, and you look at the aerial of it, you know exactly which one it is. It's the go-karts and miniature golf. The proposal is to split off a portion of the east side of the property and have then one driveway for each property. So generally, the standards, the dimensional standards of the B3 district, which covers this property, would be met with that. It's a pretty straightforward report. I can answer any questions if you have any.
Thank you, Jill. Any questions of our consultant? Barry?
Well, I wanted to make the comment, and I talked to a city attorney about this, that I at one time did represent Rick Arnold, I'm sorry, but it was a few years ago, and I'm not doing anything.
Can't remember his name.
Well, it says Ulrich, it's Rick. I don't think he's here. Oh, there he is.
Yeah, Vantage System. So, okay, Barry, so you set? I mean, are you?
No, I asked our city attorney, and he said it was okay.
Okay, so you're good. Okay, there's no conflict. And
Knew he was gonna ask.
are you a proponent?
Who's the proponent?
So now, any other questions from Planning Commission? Seeing none, let's,
I have a question.
yes,
Do we
Daniel.
get to ask what it's being split for?
Sure, let's have the proponent come up and present the lot split. Are you the proponent?
I'm the new owner, I'm trying to use my English.
Well, Could you come up and speak to us? Are you here on behalf of the lot split, sir? Okay. Beautiful. Could you give your name and address and tell us about the lot split and we'll have some questions for you.
My name is Ali Soba. I just previously bought Sports and Fun, vintage, and I heard that there's a lot split. And I had came here before I bought the place, and they told me there is a proposal going, that if you do acquire this before the hearing, you need to let us know. So here I am letting you know. I just bought it 4 days ago. So I own.
Oh, you don't want to split the property?
I need some time to talk to her.
Could we table this?
Okay, so this is new, this is new
Probably
to
better
us.
postpone it.
Staff, so is there anything that you can shed any light on the timing of who's being informed and whether this is ripe to go forward?
Well, my understanding is that ownership has changed very recently since
Okay.
the submittal of this application.
Okay.
And, you know, this gentleman here, we were told by the owner who, you know, has passed title to this gentleman that the rights and obligations with respect to seeing this lot split through would be on him essentially to complete the lot split. So the fact that he's in opposition to it perhaps is new information to me. So in that case, we may want to table it to allow him and the, you know, the previous owner to figure out what their legal obligations are here, but.
Okay. Tom, and then I'm going to go Joe and then Danielle. Tom.
So the issue with tabling or postponing, as Planning Commission knows, you have 45 days in which to act. And if you don't act, you're deemed to have approved the split.
Fine.
So we need the gentleman who owns the property, subject to both sides of this, to say on the record, I would like to postpone this and I consent to it being postponed. Like, we need him to say that.
One more time, say it again, what I'm supposed to say?
That
I would like to postpone this
Would like to
until I speak.
postpone?
Yes, of course.
And you consent to the postpone.
Yeah, I give you guys consent to postpone, please.
Thank you.
Okay, so
I need your name
and
and address.
Cheryl, for the record, Joseph, you got a question?
I just wanted to say, for the record, I understand that Ulrich J. Arnold, the applicant, is not here, right?
Correct.
Yeah, I'm the new owner.
Right, he's not here.
That's correct.
He's not in it anymore.
Oh, you're the applicant? Oh, okay.
Wait a minute, so we have Joe, we do have another party here who's going to speak. They're going to speak
Oh,
as
he
well.
is going to speak?
Yeah, I'm going to ask him to
Yeah.
tell him who.
Hey, I didn't know that.
We
sir, could
probably
you-
want to hear you.
Yeah, you introduce yourself.
Yeah, he's the original owner's representative.
JAD Services, 5119 Highland Road, 201, Waterford, Michigan. I was asked by Mr. Arnold to do the presentation today and be present on his behalf to move forward with the split. I just want to make that statement. Thank you.
So do we need to be on the record with this gentleman as well, if he's in favor of postponement?
May I get back on the record?
So can I just ask a question?
Tom.
Soba. May I get back on the record?
So the person you're representing, through the chair to you, the person you're representing has sold the entire parcel to this gentleman to your right? You don't?
I'm not aware of that.
That's what the original owner told our department this morning over the phone.
Okay, then,
So
then it is.
Okay.
that's
Original
our
owner said
impression.
This morning to you guys, correct?
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
sir?
Then I think you're fine, Mr. Chair. With what we've been told, I think you're fine.
May I add something else?
You're fine with what we've been told. If you want to postpone, you're okay.
Okay.
So, Danielle, you have a question?
Yes. Can you describe for me the area that you bought, sir?
I bought all the lots. I bought from across the river, behind the river, from the office building right on Grand River and Orchard, that whole office building, all the way to the back, across the river that butts up to the gas station back there, all the way across to the U-Haul property line.
Really?
Yeah, and all the way across the river. I bought everything.
So you bought the Circle building, the Circle office building?
Yes.
Two-story building. You bought the amusement park and whatever is behind it. I'm not familiar with what's
Yeah,
behind it, but
yes.
what you described is behind it. Okay. And the proposal that was here today that you would like tabled so you can talk to everyone?
Postponed.
Postponed.
Postponed. is to take 300 square feet. Are you familiar with what 300 square feet was being asked? Did the seller share with you?
The sell, yes, of course, I know everything. I know
Okay.
everything about, and I had a conversation with the young lady a couple of days ago, letting her know I'm the new owner. And she knew about me, and she was already upset about it. And we had a good conversation, I thought, and I told her I'd give you a couple of days to see what you want to do between me and you. Do you need this whole property for the daycare, or can we, I don't want to disappoint you in any way, And she said, you know what, I didn't really want to go this far with them. They forced me to this. So I told her, let's talk about it, see if I can help you out in some way, because I'm planning on building a full-blown amusement park here with just like C.J. Barrymore, with zip lines and Ferris wheels and all that. I'm putting something together for you guys later on to present.
Understood. Thank you for that clarity, sir.
Very good.
So yeah, I do want every piece of land that I can have on that property, So, but I can talk to her about that office building over there if we can come to some reasonable terms. But she told me she's gonna get back to me, but I didn't know why she didn't get back to me before this court. So this is where we are. I need
Okay,
time to talk to her.
That's good. And so communication has to occur. So I'm going to recommend the same thing I did with the last item, is folks, we need to all get together, because if we don't, and we don't act within 45 days, it's automatically split. The split goes through. So we need.
Unless he asks for a postponement, which he just did.
Right. And we're
Now, do we have to pass?
We can,
You need a motion,
right, we need
I
a
was about to
motion.
make the motion.
but
But
he
if we
has
do,
consent.
okay.
Yes, he's
Okay,
good.
I move that we postpone this hearing to indefinitely, and all we need is a 30 days notice or something like that, at the request of the brand-new owner,
Second.
and whatever his name is, and you can, sorry,
I still don't have that,
she's got it written down, so.
really.
Oh, you don't? She needs your name.
Is that your full spelling?
And we'll put that in the record. So what goes between you guys, we don't care about.
I would like to speak because actually when he purchased, I already had a purchase
Ma'am,
agreement.
could you give your name and address for the record? So we get-
My name is
we like-
Mary Russell. Mary
Okay.
Russell. When
Welcome.
Mr. Ali purchased it was already an agreement that I purchased the other part if the split was approved. When he signed his documents and
Okay.
became the new owner.
Right, so you had some legal document, but we haven't approved it yet.
And that's correct. It's contingent upon the
Yeah.
split.
Because he has withdrawn,
Right,
postponed.
yeah. So we're gonna postpone this. You guys work it out, and
Get it back when they're ready to go.
we'll see you when we see you back.
When we see you back. So I need a definite because I am trying to apply for a loan, and the loan is contingent upon this.
We can only act based on what the owner.
Right, if certain representatives is.
Well, that was already stated, that's what he's not really disclosing, that was a part of his purchase, that it was detailed in there. So
Well, it sounds
Mr.
like
Ali
we're-
is not
we're
being
getting
truthful.
into a private agreement that we don't have the details on. that we have to
Jurisdiction.
look at, and
Don't
the
have
jurisdiction. So right now, we're not ready to act based on what we're hearing. It wouldn't be appropriate, so we're gonna postpone it. And then we'll wait to hear back from appropriate representatives
Okay,
on this
thank
property.
Mary?
And I have a motion by Joe, supported by
Mary.
Steve.
I wanted to make sure that everybody standing here is clear on the next steps.
I'm not.
While this commission is saying, we acknowledge the tabling and we will vote on that.
Postponement.
Postponement.
It's not tabling.
In order to come back, it is incumbent upon the people at the podium, is that correct? They have to act in order to be back on
The owner of the property.
okay.
Property owner.
Yeah,
So
we
the
would-
proper,
yeah,
yes,
we-
they need that clear direction to know who
Right,
brings
thank
it
you.
back.
Yeah, we would like to have the legal representative of the owner come back and make application, and we'll certainly consider the application. Okay? Barry?
This is to put in the minutes.
Yes,
Mary
Mr.
Russell
Schultz
from
was looking the wrong way.
Tot,
I'm
and
sorry?
that's what we'll put in the minutes.
If Mr. Aldrich was the one that filed this thing,
Thank you.
he's no longer the owner, can we even proceed? Unless he assigned it.
We have a gentleman here representing that he is the owner. Your staff has been told there's been an ownership change. I think you have every right to do what you're doing right now and should do it.
Even though Mr. Aldrich was the one that filed the application. If he's no longer the owner.
Yeah. Postponement's an excellent choice then.
Yes, yes it is.
Okay.
I wonder whose
Advice
idea
from
it
Legal
was.
counsel, all in favor of postponement, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, say nay. Ayes have it, it's postponed.
And when I came to do my due diligence, they told me you must notify us if you're a new owner before this hearing, if you become a new owner, so you guys can be protected as a city by attorney. So I'm doing what's right, all right? And I did try to speak to her a couple of days ago before this hearing, and she chose not to call me before that.
Well, we appreciate everybody coming in. Thank you for coming in tonight and shedding additional information to the commission. Okay.
And John, did John support that motion?
No, the motion was made by Joe, supported by Steve.
I support it.
Joe, Steve.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. I thank all of you for your, was very interesting. Okay, next item is revised site plan 64-7 of 2018. Location is 24281 Orchard Lake Road. Proposal is revised site plan to provide a fabric wrap chain link fence instead of approved masonry panel wall along the west property line adjoining residential zoning / uses in B3, General Business Zoning District. Action requested is site plan approval, and site plan approval is made by the Planning Commission. Applicant is Stephen Hamad, and the owner is Raya Group LLC.
All right, just, you've got our letter dated July 10th that indicates the approval for this project was in 2018. And at that time, and consistent with the current ordinance, a 6-foot masonry screen wall is required on the western property line, which was indicated on their approved plan in 2018. However, instead of that 6-foot masonry screen wall, the applicant installed a chain link fence and is proposing a privacy wrap as an alternative to the masonry screen wall. So they are asking for some consideration, an amended site plan, as well as some of the landscaping materials themselves has still not been planted. So I think hearing from the applicant on their reasons for that change
Okay.
would be good.
Any questions of Jill on the alternative proposed? Okay, can we hear from the proponent, please? Please come up, state your name, your address, and describe what you want to do.
My name is Rafael Oraha. I'm the owner of the Oraha Group. We own a few property in Farmington Hills. I don't know, maybe few of you don't know me. We own the Farmington Hills Manor Banquet Hall. We own a couple of restaurants, plus we own the liquor store next door. Steve, you will actually change it.
Chairman.
Good evening.
Name?
Sir.
Stephen Hamadi, Global Equities and Development. I'm the contractor on the site.
So tell us a little bit what you want to do.
Well, we've got the situation in there originally when we were in here in the last records meeting to approve it. They approved it to put panels. They were concerned about the trees, killing the trees if we put footings. So they approved the panels, the synthetic, but we can't find the recording on it when Mark was present at that site. And
So you can't find a contractor?
I'm sorry?
You can't find a contractor? I'm having a hard time hearing what you're saying.
I'm a contractor on the site. Originally, we came here to the hearing.
Right.
And the drawing showed for like a cement wall or a block wall. And they denied it that time. They were concerned about killing the trees.
Right?
And so I offered a solution to put the synthetic one. And they said, okay. We went before Mark left, you know, and I didn't know he was leaving. I conferred with Mark. He says, have the architect change the plans and stuff. And I says, he can't get hold of him. He was in London during COVID and all that. He said, would you mind noting it down? Obviously, he didn't note it, and they
Okay,
can't
so-
give me the recording
Sir,
of it.
you're referring to the previous city planner who is no longer with the city, that you had an agreement with the
Right.
fence, and then it was something that was done in 2018, and now you brought it back, and they
Right.
said you can't do that.
Yeah.
Okay, okay.
Well,
So the
that's,
concern is not to kill the trees.
that's not what I heard.
Well, help me then,
What-
Joe.
What I heard was that Mark told him to have the architect change the plans, but they couldn't find the architect to make the changes to the plans.
Okay.
Do we have the minutes from that meeting?
Yeah, we have the minutes.
There was
Are they
originally,
here?
I mean, no, not in front of you tonight, but
Yeah.
I asked for the recording,
They say they don't have it.
and they don't have the recording.
Would we not have the
we-
recording?
I mean, we,
They said.
This is 2018, correct?
Yeah.
So,
Someone asked.
no.
so.
And they don't keep
recordings are-
audio from 2019.
I don't know how long the
Right,
city
Cheryl.
keeps recordings, but once the minutes are approved, the recordings do not become the record of the meeting anymore. And
Yes.
I think Farmington Hills tends to destroy the recordings pretty quickly.
I was told when I inquired with the clerk's office, they no longer have the recordings.
Okay. Thomas?
Well,
This is your night for really weird stuff.
No kidding.
This one's even weirder than it seems so far. So
Really?
Yeah.
you got a plan approved that requires a masonry wall because the back of this, what is it? It's essentially an oil change.
Yeah, I mean, there's a quick loop going on back here. You have
an
the
oil-
actual stacking area back here.
So your ordinance requires a masonry wall, and you typically require those. So I'm not sure how he ended up with this fence, but Mark Steck doesn't have any authority to waive any kind of wall or change a wall that's required to a fence.
it's really,
So whether he did it or not, doesn't really matter. He can't do it, whether the applicant relied on him or not. So you have a situation here where you have limited authority as well. You can only waive a wall. You can't say, as the planning commission, well, you don't have to put a masonry wall in, you can put a chain link fence in. You can waive it. If he wants a different kind of wall and you didn't waive the wall, he has to go to the ZBA, which he also hasn't done. Instead, he just put the fence in. The only thing you're doing tonight is deciding if you're gonna waive the wall, the masonry wall. If you're gonna waive the masonry wall, you can have him put a chain link fence in because he doesn't need to put anything in. But if you're not gonna waive the masonry wall, you tell him that, sorry, we're not gonna waive the wall, go to the ZBA, and maybe they'll let you have a chain link fence.
So I
Does
really
that make
want to-
sense?
So is the fence in place now or not?
the fence is in
It
place.
is existing, yep. If you go out there, it's out there right now.
It is in
The fence is
place.
in place. So we can only waive the wall. We're not giving our blessings to a fence, we're waiving a wall. So now that he has a fence, does he have to go to ZBA to legitimize that fence?
So you have, forget that the fence is there, Mr. Chair.
Just forget it.
It's not there. Like, this is, your only ability is to waive the wall or not, next to a residential property to the rear. So if you are gonna say the standards for waiving a wall, let me just read them real quick. The wall would not serve the purposes of screening the area effectively. If you're gonna make that finding as a planning commission that a wall wouldn't screen anything, then he can keep the fence. If you're not willing as a commission to make that factual finding, he's got to build a wall. And he can go to the ZBA to keep the fence instead, but that's not your call.
Clear as a cyclone fence. Joe?
I want to table this because
Please don't.
the proponent has basically said this depends on a case back in 2018.
No.
I guess through the chair,
I wanted to see the minutes.
wall is on the plan. And he's got to build to the plan. He can't not build to the plan.
Doesn't matter.
Unless and until you, the planning commission, amend the plan. That's the question before you tonight. Do you want to waive that wall?
We're not hearing from staff, you're not recommending to waive a wall, are you?
I would not recommend under any circumstances waiving this wall.
I see. I thought this was
Okay,
You see north and south of it with less intensive uses that there's a concrete wall. So, I mean, right north and south, you can see it right there. There's more intensive use on this
We all
property
have
than
this
north or south.
Okay, okay, one conversation. Thank you. So staff's not recommending a waiving of a wall. We got a fence with lattice already in place, screening something. Danielle?
Staff, why are you not recommending waiving the wall?
I mean, I guess it comes down to, you think a cyclone fence wrapped in fabric is a superior buffer to?
No, that wasn't the question. Waiving of the wall. So what's the
We got
purpose of
approval
the
from
wall?
the neighbors.
Yeah.
Well, the purpose of the wall is to screen the, sound attenuation, lights, all of those things from a residential backyard that adjoins this property directly.
There's a purpose for the wall.
Yes,
Right, okay, that's, so there's.
undoubtedly.
So just to clarify, if we waive it, they could tear down that fence and not have anything, and there's nothing the city could do, because we.
No, they'd
waived
never
the
get a
wall.
C of O because the approved plan would.
They're
So
required.
basically, we're waiving any,
Right. The question before you is that the wall is required by the ordinance, and you only, to that question about an administrative waiver, doesn't exist in the ordinance. You are the body to provide that waiver, if you find that those standards are met.
And the standard's very clear. It's not just, do we think there should be a wall there? Does the wall screen the property behind it or not? Not is it a good idea to screen it, not could it be screened some other way? Does a wall screen the property?
So there's a very specific standard for our wall, right? And it doesn't include a cyclone fence with weaving in it?
No, it specifies that it be masonry.
No. So, right. And you're not waiving the wall because there's a purpose for the wall, because we're still wanting to screen the activity at this place. So, okay. So you know our problem is here, you put something in the city doesn't recognize. We don't recognize a cyclone fence with weaving in it.
Okay.
And we're not going to waive the wall requirement because there's purpose in the wall, because we need that screening. You recognize the purpose of the wall, that's why you put the weaving in it.
Yes.
So, Joe?
Just an example of when we would waive a wall.
Yeah.
Is when there's like a 6-foot elevation difference between your property and your neighbors. And then if you put the wall up, it didn't serve any purpose. So we would then we might waive the wall.
Or a bunch of vegetation, or.
Okay.
Or the
And if I might
vegetation's already
comment,
so
yeah,
thick,
there is.
okay? Yeah.
There's the trees. The concern was you're gonna kill the tree and it violates the MDNR.
So sometimes with these walls, we have said you can put in the post.
Non-continuous footing walls. That's what those-
Exactly.
Or we can put trees.
And that is something we did. But whether or not, what we required in the minutes, I don't know.
Yeah, but the neighbors, by any chance, the neighbors signed the letter?
Yeah.
Fine with it.
Oh, they're fine with it, yeah.
Steve, did you want to make a suggestion?
That letter
I was
wasn't
just gonna
actually
say,
from the
if they don't want to put the wall in, they can go to the ZBA who can grant relief. We can't. We have to either say the wall or waive it, which obviously there's a purpose. So we can't waive it. They can go to the ZBA and they can.
I mean, our hands are kind of tied. We think there's a reason for the wall, that's why we required it. We're not going to waive it.
Okay.
What you built is not in the ordinance. We don't allow that. So your only option is to go to ZBA and make a practical difficulty or hardship argument or something to them saying.
Yeah, it's gonna create an economic hardship.
Okay.
It's the federal guidelines.
Okay. Jill, did you have a comment?
I just wanted to clarify too, that there is the landscape in the back that is also expected to be installed per the approved site plan.
Okay.
So in addition to the wall, that landscaping needs to be improved.
So there's some staff.
There's gonna be
follow-up on
landscaping there too, so.
On the landscape plan.
The site is, got some way to go to completion.
By the way, the fence itself, the materials, the technical data, it does, cut the noise, the light.
Okay,
And
that's
it does all
compelling
that
argument. You're
anyway.
making it to the wrong group, maybe the ZBA. John.
Is the homeowner lives on Doheny here tonight by any chance? No? Okay. Have you talked to the homeowner?
Yes.
Oh, yeah, they said he's got a letter.
From them, yeah.
And if it goes to the ZBA, that homeowner's gonna be notified, right?
Yes, he will be noticed. And this whole existence of the cyclone fence first came to my attention actually because the owner came in and spoke with me and said, hey, I thought there was supposed to be a wall behind me. So that's where that's where this all started.
Does this-
wants it?
Does this gentleman have a TCO or C of O?
He has neither. He has a lot of outstanding engineering requirements to
Okay.
get through here in addition to the planning
Enough
requirements.
information.
Yep.
Okay. So it sounds like you have an option to go to the zoning board of appeals, otherwise you have to build a wall. It could be a non.
But if we, this is the thing, if we build the wall, they gave me the, to take the, they're gonna blame me for killing the trees. I'm not gonna take
Right.
that chance.
You're right. Well, it doesn't
So
make-
unless the city releases a letter, releases me from liability on it, they take, if the trees dies, it's on them, not
We
on me.
turn to the city attorney on all the issues of
That
liability.
would be on the planning commission, actually.
Okay,
And manage it with the MDNR.
okay, so,
Fine.
okay, I think we got enough information. Any questions for the proponent? Any more questions? Thank you, gentlemen. Thanks for coming in
Thank you very
tonight.
much. Have a good night, now.
Okay, you too. Thank you. Yes, yes, I'm getting back to us. Okay, what do you, any comments, questions, whatever, or? do we have a
Did we
motion?
need to vote on anything?
Need to vote on it.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, we need a
because
motion.
We got we got a
I
request.
think we should just ask Tom.
Tom, what do you think?
Need to make the second motion on your sheet that the proposed site plan be denied.
Kristen, I think, wants to make a motion.
I would move that the revised site plan 64/7/2018 dated June 15, 2023, submitted by Stephen Hamad be denied for the following reasons. We are not willing to waive the wall requirement per the plan.
Okay.
Doesn't matter.
Kristen, Steve, got it for John. All in favor of denying the request, the revised site plan, say aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay. Ayes have it. Revised site plan is denied.
So you can get with Eric about getting in front of the ZBA.
Okay, guys, thank you for coming in tonight. Okay. Okay, next item is approval of minutes, June 15, 2023 special meeting and June 15, 2023 regular meeting. We'll just, I guess, one motion.
So moved.
Steve, thank you. Motion by Steve, supported by
Minutes and zoning about
John,
making
thank
ZBA
you.
application and what the timeline is on that.
Cheryl, thank you very much. Good minutes.
We got you set up, so.
All in favor, say approving the motion, say aye.
Yeah. Certainly.
And opposed, say nay.
Aye, John.
Ayes have it, motion, minutes approved. Public comment, anybody want to speak on, please, sir, come forward. You address the planning commission, name and address. Love to see a smiling face in the audience.
Yeah. Well, I wanted to comment on the item number 5, and I know that you're not going to answer any questions. You made
Okay.
that very clear,
Thank you.
Dale. And I can appreciate what you're all trying to get
Did it make
accomplished
sense?
here.
Did it make sense to you out there?
Yeah, sure, it's fine.
Okay, thank you. Okay.
What I need to get clarified eventually.
address,
By the way, my name is Richard Olenzik. I live in Holly Hill Farm, so I'm not directly adjacent to the proposed PUD, but I'm close enough to it where I want to know more about it.
Okay.
All right. One thing I'd like to get clarified at the hearing is we talk about affordable housing. What does that mean? I know you're not going to answer that. When I drive down 12 Mile, I see a lot of apartment complexes. I mean, practically between Orchard Lake Road and Middlebelt Road, there's a lot of apartment complexes in there. And so I look at that and I'm saying, is that affordable housing? It looks like affordable housing to me. I don't know. So what I'd like to get clarified is, what are they are they to be called affordable housing? Does that mean $200 or $300 a month for rent? Or how does it compare with what we already have on 12 Mile? I just think there's a lot of apartment complexes there, and I'm thinking, okay, do we need another one over here on 13 Mile? I'm worried about my property value. I'm worried about just what is going to be going on over there.
Okay.
All right, and how it's going to be cared for and all that type of thing that comes along with whatever we're calling affordable housing. I'd like to see that defined. And I'd also like to try and understand, is there some kind of state pressure or a pressure coming from the state for us to approve this PUD? All right, so at the hearing, I would like it to be clear if it's something that's being pushed upon us to approve this kind of proposal for this particular plot of land. All right, so that's my comment.
Okay. We will follow up on, we'll try to get more information to understand what is meant by affordable housing and how that relates maybe in the community. And
That was actually in the proposal.
okay.
They had. There is a definition, they went through it last time, and they will make sure they go through it, but there is a legal definition for what it is.
But also, Mr. Chair, just as we discussed last time, you're a land use approving body. You're approving
I was going to get to that, but go ahead.
the kind of development it is from a land use perspective. You're probably not going to be doing a very searching requirement into who's going to be living there and how much money they make, just so everybody knows that.
But as it relates to what the application says, certainly we want to share that
And,
with you.
the applicant can explain what they intend to do for sure, but you're going to be looking at the standards of your ordinance, which don't talk about how much money people make.
And I can always speak for myself, well, I'll speak for everybody. There's nobody under pressure here to do anything. We're doing the best land use management, looking at the proposals, whatever, and trying to do the best for our community.
Understood. I think for the people living in the neighborhood,
Yeah.
we're asking, all right, a number of years ago, there was this idea to put a condominium complex right at the corner of 13 Mile and Middle Belt. And as it turns out, it's very nice. I hardly even know that it's there. It was executed so well, and it really blends in well with the environment. I don't think one neighbor would say anything negative about that execution. It was done very well. And I've lived here for 25 years, so I've seen how things have evolved along 13 Mile. And I agree that right now it's not being maintained very well. The other comment I have, and I'll cut it short because I know we want to get going here. It's a nice night.
Sure, I'm just looking at 3 minutes.
Oh.
You're at 2:30.
No, I didn't want to take that long, but.
You got 30 seconds.
We take a nightly walk and we ran into one of the neighbors who are adjacent to the property, the PUD proposal. And they said that the group notified them tonight. So there was no pre-notification. It happened tonight. They put something in their mailbox or came to their door or something.
Our objective is everybody have a good exchange of ideas and not cast aspersions either way, that we're just trying to exchange information and people will agree or disagree, and that's okay. And then we just kind of try to figure it out up here. But I appreciate that as well.
All right, I'm all set. Thank you
Thank
for
you for coming in
letting me
tonight.
make a comment.
Okay, thanks for staying to
For
the
comments.
end. Yes. Okay, any other public comments? Seeing none. We do have a former planning commissioner in the audience tonight. We're honored by Duke Orr.
If I may point out, he's
Joe, go
the
ahead.
one who I believe moved to Phoenix or some such thing, or.
Sold, he's back.
All right.
Good to see you. You want to come up and say anything?
I was obviously alluding to the heat.
You want to come up to the podium and say anything?
No.
No, they're not.
Okay, good to see you, Duke. Let's see, commissioner comments, staff comments. Joe?
Thank you, Duke. I want to make that comment. I was barely able to hear what that one gentleman was discussing, and I translated, and believe me, it was at great effort. I could barely hear it, and I am, within 10 feet of the gentleman. And he's got a microphone, and I can't even hear them. That's how bad the acoustics continue to be in this room.
I have
That's
a
my
hard time,
commissioner's
hearing
comment.
Dale. I can barely hear Dale.
Preaching to the choir, man. Everybody, you know, in City Hall here, we're aware of that fact. It's, the acoustics are not good in this room.
We're supposed to talk into the microphone.
Like this the whole time.
True.
And heaven forbid more than one person talk at one time. All bets are off.
Okay, well, thank you for assist on hearing there, Joe. That was helpful. Handed that one off beautifully. Barry?
I am back from my trip to Hawaii with my beautiful wife of 50 years. I took the family.
Yeah.
And I came back, we left at 5 o'clock yesterday afternoon from Honolulu and landed here at 7:30 in the morning, and I didn't really have much sleep.
Yeah, you don't look lagged out today at all.
You should come when you're tired more often.
I had to talk just so I could stay awake.
I'm all set. Danielle? Thank you for.
That was a good meeting.
Good.
It was an
It was a
interesting,
very interesting meeting.
Very interesting meeting.
that's the most interesting one we've had, or I've been a part of so far.
Very interesting stuff for us tonight.
Yeah.
Very dynamic, huh? Okay.
Not telling me you're not gonna be here next month.
I know you asked and I said nothing, but
Oh, Daniel has something. We're not adjourned yet.
I do have one thing. I understand what is before us when we have to vote. But what is very clear is that we do not communicate well what's the next step for the person standing there if we are not voting to approve it. So it's not our job to make their decision for them, but it seems like it would be helpful to be clear, we're gonna vote it down. The next thing you need to do, if you would like to take this up again or whatever, is refile. Or the next thing you need to do is go to zoning board. It's just so that they're not, you know, lost.
Well, I'll take the hit for that. Sometimes it's really not up to us to direct them. It's up to them. We're not supposed to be directing folks. We're not a proponent for what they want to do. We can tell them if they ask what their options are. We certainly could share that. And in the case of the ZBA option and the lattice fence, that was an option and that was expressed. So to the extent the chair can share additional information and give direction to them, I attempt to do that. I try to do that tonight in describing the process. There's a lot of people who are here spending time here. So we're certainly trying to inform people, but sometimes I don't feel it's appropriate for me to suggest things or actions that perhaps are not going to be successful, and nor do I think I should take a position to encourage them to do something that may not work out. So I don't know if anybody else has any other comments on it. Jill, do you
I
have
would completely agree with that. because
neutrality aspect of it,
You
yeah.
can get really far afield if you start suggesting that one path or another path, and then somebody else chimes in and they've got another idea. And I think the best way to do it is just to say, you know, talk to staff and find out what your next steps might be. Other than in the case with the wall, because that was a specific direction to go to the ZBA, we would generally never suggest that, just because that's, they don't shop for answers by going to the ZBA and getting a variance. You know, you have the ability to uphold the requirements of the zoning ordinance with the site plan approval or not, and then that's up to the applicant to decide what they want to do next. But the ZBA is something that we don't take and encourage lightly for folks, just so you know.
Agreed. Again, not saying we should be telling them what
Yeah,
to
but I think
do.
directing them to staff is the
Yes,
easy thing
that
to do.
is to
Absolutely.
know that we should say, okay, we voted it down, go see staff and weigh your options. Yeah.
I mean, there are certain times where we can't approve something. but
Right.
It's very clear that the ZBA probably will approve it, and we'll actually approve it contingent on ZBA approval.
Gotcha.
Doesn't happen too often.
That's all. I just want them not to be sitting there like, so what happens now? If we can say, go see staff, then,
That's
yeah,
usually
that's, I think that's great.
They've got all the, they got all the answers.
You need
Right.
to do anything with those. You need to sign it.
I don't get
Okay,
Sorry.
no problem.
I was using it.
Can I have a motion? I think it's time, motion to adjourn.
I motion that we adjourn.
Okay, John got it, supported by Danielle. All fair say aye.
Aye.
We're adjourned. Thank you.
So I should.